Welcome back to PPCM's Painful Truth. Today's guest, Heather Taylor.
Wonderful. Hi, thank you today for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
And educating us on your peripartum cardiomyopathy experience and the journey of this painful truth. Why don't you start out by just introducing yourself, where you from,
Sure.
and how old were you when you were first diagnosed PPCM?
So I'm from Everett. Well, I currently live in Everett, Washington.
Okay.
And I was diagnosed in January 2021. I was 35.
Okay. Yeah. I know.
I'm trying to think how old I am right now. So yeah,
I lost 3 years. So I always say I'm 3 years younger because I lost it. So, PPCM.
Yeah.
So what in your young womanhood, like 30s, in your young 30s, and did you have any type of medical condition prior to pregnancy? Very healthy?
No, I had a totally fairly normal pregnancy. It was my second. I went through a birthing center with midwives, which is what I'd also done with my first child. And yeah, I didn't have gestational diabetes. Like, there were no complications with the delivery itself. Everything was normal. The only thing that I noticed was in my third trimester, my heart rate was a lot higher than I was used to. So I'd be sitting and it'd be like 110. And then I'd stand up and it'd go to 120. And that just seemed high for me. And I had mentioned it to my midwives. And they weren't concerned because my blood pressure was still really low. So I've always had really low blood pressure. And so they weren't concerned about my increase in heart rate. And we're like, well, that just can happen, in pregnancy. And so I didn't follow up with anyone else about it. I just figured it'd go back to normal.
Right. And that's kind of like where the issue lies with us, where women, that's extremely common, just uncommon for, really understanding the symptoms when a woman says, ouch, that our bodies are really trying to say something, and that, to be brushed off. At what point were you diagnosed? At what point in your pregnancy?
Right. So I had my daughter in October, end of October, 2020. And, I had some swelling in my legs after, but figured it was just because I was doing too much. Because I also had a 4-year-old at the time. And so, just that takes a lot of extra energy trying to transition from 1 to 2. And I seemed to be more fatigued than I remembered the first time, but they said that that's normal. So just lots of normalizing of any extra strain I was feeling. And then in January, I noticed, I woke up in the middle of the night and, I felt like I was having a panic attack, and I'm a more anxious person naturally. And I'm also a psychologist. And so I was just using my tools to try to help my panic attack that I thought would go down. And that was on a Thursday. I remember very vividly. That was a Thursday morning. And I was supposed to start teaching a class on Monday for an online psychology class. And so I was like, maybe I'm just stressed about that. And then by Saturday morning, I was like, something's wrong. My anxiety is not going away. Whenever I lay down, it felt like my whole body was vibrating from my heartbeat. Like I just couldn't, so I didn't sleep for 2 days. And again, just thought it was anxiety. And so Saturday morning, I was like, I think something's wrong. And I was talking with my partner, and I was like, I think I need to go to the emergency room. Like, something's not okay. And so I went, and they did all these all the tests, and gave me morphine and sent me home and said, there's nothing wrong. Like, I mean, I remember pumping in the ER, like in my emergency room, because I was still breastfeeding at that time. And this is about 10 weeks postpartum. And so then they say, well, maybe you should go see an internist. And so I was so exhausted. It's like, I felt just heavy with exhaustion. My abdomen was really swollen. And something was wrong, but it's like, I couldn't get anything going. So my partner actually ended up calling and making the appointment for me. They got me in that following Thursday. So at this point I'd been very symptomatic for about a week. And I was probably symptomatic beforehand. And I just, we're women, we minimize things. And so I saw the internist and I had an abnormal EKG. And so she recommended getting an echocardiogram, and she said, don't be too stressed. Like she actually had mentioned heart failure, and I freaked out. I'm like, what? Like, I've never heard of that being like as a result of being pregnant. And she'd had one other patient who had that ended up having that as a diagnosis. So my partner and I were like trying to not freak out. Cause she said, it could take a couple weeks for you to get in for an echo. So as soon as I left, I called the scheduling line.
Good for you. You really advocated for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to tell me that it's potentially heart failure, like I'm going to be
Absolutely.
loud.
If I even had a clue, I wasn't putting two and two together, and I was also very sick and dying. But if I didn't put two, I don't know why I didn't put two and two together. I kept trying to just checking the baby. I just didn't check me, and they didn't check me. But yeah, it seems as if like, okay, so you were diagnosed in the ER, correct?
So no, at this point, I still hadn't been even diagnosed. So after I saw the internist, I called to try to schedule, and I was super snarky with the scheduling person. She's like, well, we actually have a cancellation on Saturday. So 2 days later, what time would work for you? I'm like, as soon as you can get me in to find out if I'm dying or not. Like, that's literally.
Yeah, I know. The thing is 911, I'm dying. Like, I don't know what that, like how other and okay. Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah,
sorry.
It's comical when it's not comical, but when you look back on it and you lived and everything, you're like, oh my God, like what I went through that I had to deal with women. Like, I remember I was like dying. She's like, can you hold? And I'm like, I don't know.
Sure.
I have no idea. I cannot breathe. I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll do my best. I mean, these people, they just, so yeah.
Anyways, and she's like, well, how's 1 o'clock? Can you make 1 o'clock work? I'm like, yes, absolutely. I can make that work. And so, I remember my parents came up to help with the kids, and my partner took me in because we're both like freaked out. Like, am I dying? Like, what's going on? We know I'm not okay. And so I remember going in, and the echo tech, he was like freaked out, like visibly freaked out. And he's asking me, so you're not going to go anywhere until I bring a doctor to come in and talk to you, right? I'm like, no. I mean, why would I leave if you're telling me I need to talk to a doctor? Sure. I mean, I'm a fairly reasonable woman. So I wait, and they brought the cardio guy in, and he's like, all right, so here's the deal. Your ejection fraction is like 10%, and a normal heart's is like 65%. So you don't have 2 to 3 weeks to wait to get in with a cardiologist. So you need to go to the ER and get admitted. And I was like, okay, like freaking out.
So that's where I was going. So it took an ER life threat for anybody to finally move forward with any type of treatment.
Well, not even then, because my first ER visit, they sent me home. They said nothing was wrong, and I was probably overtired.
It's common.
And so then it was the internist who saw.
Did they give you a drug test too? Do you know? I mean, most women that get sent home from the ER, they all are insulted because it's like they got drug tests. She's like, why would they drug test me? I'm pregnant. Like, why would they even think that I would even be like, what is wrong with these people? And they're literally drug testing women, but not giving them the NT-proBNP test. So at
Yeah,
this point, you're still not even, you got sent home out from what hospital?
Providence up in Everett.
In what state? In Washington?
Washington State.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Okay.
they gave me morphine and sent me home. And so then I was actually able to sleep. Morphine knocked me up, but then I got sick. Like I don't take a lot of, like, I don't take pain meds regularly. I don't take any drugs at that point.
Well, why would you? You're healthy.
Vitamins. And, you know, and then I'm puking all night because the morphine wasn't reacting well with my system. And then we actually ended up having we called 911 the next day because I was still having chest pain.
You could have died then.
I know. And the ambulance came and they did all this stuff in my living room. And this is like during, you know, full COVID.
I was just going to say, how did COVID play into, how did COVID play into all of this? Because I mean, they could be saying that you can't breathe because of COVID.
Yeah. They did they do COVID? I don't even know if there were rapid COVID tests yet. This was because it was early January 2021. So I don't even think there were rapid COVID tests yet.
Do you think that because you were right smack at COVID that you were dismissed more?
Maybe. I mean, it was a frustrating experience trying to advocate for myself when I was, you know, like dying. Right. I mean, they weren't going to let my partner back. And he was like, no, like I'm coming back with her. Like he was super advocacy,
wonderful,
which was great. But I mean, but the first ER trip, like they wouldn't let him in the room with me. So it was, so COVID might've definitely played a part in it. But I don't know how much.
Okay. Not related to, your treatment. It didn't conflict with that, but just that you just had to do it alone.
Yes, for sure. I mean, and it's already like, I mean, and so after the echo, I went down to the emergency room and I admitted myself. They wheeled me down because like I'd had to walk all these flights of stairs to get up to the echo. And I'm like winded, what? You know, no one said I could use an elevator. There was no wheelchair and nothing. And so I'm like having to stop and I thought I was a fairly fit person keeping up with my kids and I can't even walk up some stairs. And then I'm sweating and winded as I go into that echo, just trying to like get to the room. And it's ridiculous.
So your echo probably wasn't as accurate because you were already at that point, probably having heart failure, just climbing the steps.
They said my heart was very, very dilated. And anyway, so they ended up admitting me into the hospital I was in for 5 days. Because my thyroid also freaked out because of the heart failure. So my thyroid, they called it a storm.
Did your kidneys start to fail?
No, thankfully, no.
Good. That's what mine.
Is that what happened to you?
Oh yeah. I had, at Cedars-Sinai, I went in with 104 temperature and I couldn't breathe. And, this is at the Cedars-Sinai in Beverly Hills. And, you know, I mean, meanwhile, I'm going constantly because I have like the best insurance. So I'm like, check everything. But when I went to the ER clinic, it literally says on my discharge papers, she is not ill, UTI. They gave me a shot this big with fluid when I was already 50 pounds in fluid weight and said, have a great Thanksgiving, and sent me on my merry way. I remember the last thing, I couldn't put my socks on my feet. I do remember the woman who gave me the shot. She had big, bright red lipstick and the needle was this big and it hurt. But then I was like the walking of the dead. You just told me where to plant and I was going, I have photos the day that I coded and I don't remember, but it was the day after Thanksgiving. I don't remember the drive to Arizona. The whole family went off into Christmas to see Christmas lights. And my husband stayed back because I was sleeping all day. And I said I was still tired and he didn't understand why I was so tired when I slept all day. So he stayed back and the baby stayed with stayed with me. And then unfortunately I have this on video because as he's saving my life, it's recorded so you can hear the panic in his voice, where I literally, and I showed my cardiologist, I am having death right there. I don't know if it's a seizure or whatnot, but what I was told is that my kidneys were failing. I didn't have a UTI and I had the cardiac arrest. So my husband knew to put me on the floor and then give me CPR on the hard floor and then call 911 immediately. And then I had my death called, and then they got something, and then my heart failed 3 times, stopped, and each time it stopped, I was flatlined for over 30 minutes, each cardiac arrest death. And then I was in the hyperthermia coma. So that's why I'm starting this, because when I went back and I kept going back to my doctors and I kept saying, I'm not suing, I just want to spread the awareness. And I was brushed off. And I was like told that I just got the bad luck of the draw, to find out that it's actually very common. It's so rare. It's so rare for anybody to have awareness, but it's not rare to get PPCM. And then when girls just kept still dying, after childbirth at Cedars-Sinai, I'm like, they're not learning from me. They're not listening to me. They're not taking me seriously. And then on November 21st, 2021, this past November, Leah, she passed after childbirth. Her father, Robert, is an actor here in Hollywood. And I'm just like, no, this is it. I'm starting this docuseries because women are getting diagnosed in the ER at a life threat. And, it's really disturbing that to find out that a simple blood test as early as 10 weeks pregnant, the NT-proBNP test, would have been life-saving to my family, and everything. And for you, here you are now 10 weeks postpartum and you're advocating for yourself. And at that point, you're like, am I going to live? And I just gave life.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
So I got admitted to the hospital after the echo. They ran all sorts of tests. I dropped 20 pounds of fluid in those 5 days.
By the way, I was also 10% EF like you, and I had cardiac death. So you are very, 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 very lucky.
It's
like a matter of a second, it could have changed. Your life could have changed.
Yes. It was, my poor partner, like, I don't think any of us really slept that week because we were so just like, am I going to wake up? Like I was having, I still have fears of going to sleep and not waking up.
Oh, sure. Same with me. Absolutely. It's only natural.
So I was in the hospital for 5 days. I got a bunch of medications started. And then they referred me to a cardiologist who was close to my home. But he, I go in for my first appointment. I think it was like a week after hospital discharge. And, it's all, his primary population was older adults. And so he hadn't really worked with anyone like me before. And so he referred me, thank God, to University of Washington. And so I've been working with a great advanced heart failure specialist there who's worked with women who have this and has been taking care of me since I think I started seeing her in like April, just because the wait lists to get into anywhere good are just so long.
Really?
Yeah.
So, what's your EF percent today?
So my last echo was in December and I'm up to 38%.
So you're still not fully recovered?
No. And I can't have any more kids because my EF got so low that they are, I know other women have gone on to have other children, even with low
I feel
EF,
the same. I hear you.
I don't want to risk it for my family.
And also for the, and I always tell my son Liam, I'm like, I want to give you, you're my all. Like I will give you all of me, all of my love. And now he's 5, but even still, I'm like, two would be a game changer for me because, and I was like mother hen. I was a teacher at one point in my life, but it's expensive. It's hard. And, really children today, they really need, full attention. And like, I do believe that, having children after PPCM. And, I think that it's wonderful when women can say that they had 2 more, 4 more, whatever, good for them. Like,
Absolutely.
God bless them, and they've come out where they didn't have any complications whatsoever because the placenta growth is different with each pregnancy. Is what Dr. Fett keeps saying all the time, Dr. James Fett, that that the placenta growth factor is what determines, for the woman to have that type of induced complication. Yeah. So I guess now that you have educated yourself on this by experiencing it, did you go back to your midwives and say, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. So I think it was in like April when I could finally like talk about it without totally losing it.
I still can't. I don't know when I will be evolved. And I know women, like, they're so critical in so many different aspects, but like, I don't know when I'll be able to get there. I have so much resentment and anger because of the lack of disrespect to form when you wake up from cardiac death as a healthy girl. And like, people look at you like you're the alien from Mars, and I'm looking at them like, shouldn't you know this? Like, and it's really, really terrifying. But what's more terrifying is that, that other women can actually, judge another woman on how like they're, how they're going. Like, I'm human just like everybody else. I tried my hardest, but it was like, it was not me. It was the system. And, as a woman. And so, and I didn't even really want anything. I just wanted, like, I'm so glad you're still with us today. I'm so sorry. Let's raise awareness. Let's try. I was looking for any compassion whatsoever. Yeah. And for 5 years, I was searching for it. I was craving it and wanting it. And it wasn't working. Midwives and doulas say that I'm not using the right approach by giving informative, life-saving information. Others call spam. Women say, theories and opinions and other things, but it's like, that's all we have right now. We don't have much to base anything off of, only from what our own experience is. And I am not happy with at all. Just, you are. So you went back to your midwives, and I'm sure you went back not happy.
Yeah, I was very upset because I had told them, I was like, my heart rate was elevated. Is there a reason we didn't do this B&P test to check anything? And insurance doesn't cover it, which is why they didn't do it. And it's not
$15.
It's not part of their protocol. And so,
but it's $15.
I know, it's crazy. And so she was like, she called me again to follow up later. She's like, I brought it to my team, and we've been open for 40 years and we've never heard of this. I'm like, well, great. Now you have, and you need to do something to change your protocol if you see signs like this in the future. Because I got really lucky that I'm still here. And, other moms aren't as lucky, or, they continue to stay sick and untreated. And, I joined there's the Facebook group, for peripartum cardiomyopathy survivors. So I joined that, and it's like, there's some moms who weren't diagnosed for like 10 years until it got figured out later. And it just blows my mind that, you have to get so sick for people to notice. And it's like, if there's all of this pressure to, not to get like political, but like all this anti-abortion stuff. And it's like, okay, great. You're wanting to preserve those lives, but then how are you taking care of the moms afterwards? And if there's this condition that's impacting 1 in 4,000 women, like, why isn't there anything being studied about that? Or where's the preventative medicine for that? I don't, it blows my mind. Like,
well, there is most definitely preventable medicine, and it is medically has proven. Thank God we have medical backup, because that's what's going to prove this. Where's the medical backup? Well, guess what? It's there. It's, the medical backup proves that no woman should ever suffer or die from peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM, if she's not diagnosed with the NT-proBNP test, or preeclampsia, the SFLT1, and the PIGF, which is the cardiotoxic fluid in the body mixed with the placental growth factor with the NT-proBNP test. Then everything should be fine. There should be no suffering. Maternal mortality should not even exist. And we have one of the highest death rates in the country. So it's insulting all women's intelligence when we're saying, why isn't this happening? Why aren't the tests being raised? And why hasn't awareness been raised if it saves lives? Why are women for over 20, 30 years that are recovered from PPCM saying the exact same experience from women that are very young with the exact same experience, with so far others being aware of it, like hence having that, I can't believe it, that SNAP cat test, that feline pro-BNP test that I posted the other day. This is aware. They are aware. They have been aware. They even admit that they are aware. They even states, American Heart Association has been aware that women's pregnancy heart they have been aware of the change in the last 20 years. Well, guess what? There hasn't been change.
Yeah.
The only change that there has been is social media to get this out here.
Yeah.
There has been zero change. So I don't know what they mean by that. I mean, change is like now that they're seeing that it's actually it's coming out. So you're hearing more and more, and the fact that the statistics is 1 in 20 PPCM is solely responsible for 1 in 20 heart transplants a year in the US. And it's all preventable because it doesn't have to come to the heart suffocating by the fluid. If you remove the fluid, if you cure the condition, you cure the symptoms. If you cure the symptoms, you don't freaking die. Mm. So what did your midwives actually say?
They said that they were going to talk about putting a new protocol in, that if those symptoms arise, then they'll do a BNP test. But I haven't followed up with them to see if they've actually done anything. So,
well, what maybe can help is that I do have a really good visual graphs and really very executed PowerPoint presentation.
I'd be happy to send them.
If they want to use it, include it, however they want, at least they can have the information, have the education available to them, and then they could do what they want with it. Hopefully they apply it, because there are women in the wheelhouse around pregnancy that can seriously make a difference for all women's future health and wellness, and change history, where women will no longer be suffocating until death.
Yeah.
So that's great that they're interested in having that. I will forward it to you when we get off. I want to add three more actually visuals, so they can see the NT-pro BNP test and why it actually would make sense to them on how the NT-pro, the brain natriuretic peptide test, applies with pregnancy. And then the graph that Dr. Fett actually included. But I think it's very important for us to provide training, whether it's the whether it's, I don't know if you can see. I don't know if
Yeah, I think I've seen that one. I follow you on Instagram, so I've seen, and I usually share a lot of the graphics that you post.
Yeah, there's a few that I actually have not shared, which I think is now it's a whole presentation, and I think
awesome.
that would do well, like, you know, something like, oh
yeah, gosh. I can't really see.
I have to get used to this. Hold on. I don't know when I'm looking. I don't know where the finder is. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I put it in my face.
Oh, there we go.
Let me see if I put it where because my face is clear. So, oh shoot. I'll have to fast forward this. Let me see. You know what? I don't know if we're friends on Facebook, but I'm gonna send this to you. Let me see if I can see if it does anything. Nope. Well, I'll message it to you. I'll put it on try one more time. I'll have him edit this. You suck. Hold on. I think I'm going to give up. Nope. It's not working. Not working. Nope. That sucks. Are we friends on Facebook?
I probably not. I'm not on Facebook very often.
Okay. Because
I mainly I use Instagram, but not. Let
me see if I can.
Oh, it kind of shows.
And again, I'm gonna edit this. Wait, hold on. Okay. Let's see if I can. You know what? It's the lighting. That's why. I don't know why. What a shame. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm. I can see the pictures. I can't read what it says or anything, but yeah.
I'm going to post
it's just the body and the heart and the brain.
The brain.
Yep. And then
the body with the belly. Add me as a friend. I don't know. Are we friends on it? Are we on Facebook?
I mean, I follow PPCM. I don't know if we're friends on Facebook.
Hold on. Heather. T.A. Taylor, right?
That is my last name, but on Facebook it's Heather Lynn, Lynn.
It's my mother-in-law's name, and Seattle, Washington, right?
Yes. I think it's a picture of me and my son.
Yeah, I think we are friends.
Okay.
And I am going to send you the visual, and maybe you can show it if it shows on yours, and then I'll have my husband edit this, because, you know, I've been working on trying to create an actual visual that can really show what this disease looks like, you know, like with the preventions, when, like, visually, I think people visually, you know, get it with visuals. Let me see, did I do it? So after you were diagnosed, were you diagnosed peripartum cardiomyopathy?
Yes. When I left the hospital in January, that was the diagnosis.
And so do you have that on like your discharge?
Mm-hmm.
Like your discharges that you were peripartum cardiomyopathy?
Yes. Yes. Cause I remember distinctly because when so I currently work so I have a few different hats that I wear. So I'm a licensed psychologist. And then I also, I work for an insurance company as a behavioral health case manager. And so when I was filling out paperwork for short-term disability, it wants to know what your diagnosis is. And so I remember having to send them a copy of that paperwork and it had that diagnosis on it. Ooh, I think it just came through. Oh, that's a great one. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, you can hold it up. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so you can see that in the middle between the heart and the brain is the NT-proBNP test. And so there's a visual of the levels of what we need to know. Now they're all in codes, but once you learn the codes and you know what the codes are, it all makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not like when I say the SFLT1, I know that now the -1, it means genetic. I know, you start to pick up the language of the studies and why they chose those specific blood codes, which is very interesting. And
that is interesting.
Because, when you're like NT-proBNP test, you're like, what's that? Or this one right here, which I'm going to send you.
I know every time we would, because, right after you're diagnosed, you have all these blood draws like all the time. And so they check your BNP levels all the time.
All the time.
And so my family would always be like, so what's the BNP? Are you under 100 yet? And I was like 1497 on admission. And then I'm not quite under 100 yet, but I'm close. I'm like in the hundreds.
Okay. So are you getting your magnesium drips? Are you taking a lot of magnesium? What are you doing for that? Are you on
I actually don't take any magnesium actually. I take okay.
You need
I don't know if you want my medication rundown.
Yeah, you should.
What was that?
What is your medication rundown?
So I take so I am on Entresto. I take metoprolol. I take Entresto and metoprolol twice a day. Torsemide, and then I take potassium twice a day because that flushes your system and then you have to worry about your kidneys. So I take the potassium. I take spironolactone, digoxin, and Farxiga, which is actually a diabetes medication, but some of the recent studies have found that that's really helpful with heart failure. And then I take a crap ton of vitamins.
Yeah. Do you take your vitamins during the day and your medication at night?
So I have one of those medication dispenser thingies that has the AM and PM. And so most of my meds are in the morning. And then I take some of my like multivitamin, fish oil, vitamin C stuff in the mornings. And then in the evenings, I use a lot of essential oil stuff. And then I take 5-HTP, and then my metoprolol and my Entresto in the evenings as well, because you take it twice a day. What else do I take? I take B complex, vitamin D, because again, up in Washington.
So you don't take any magnesium whatsoever?
No.
Wow.
I think it.
Didn't
I had
your doctor
asked.
tell you?
So I had asked about magnesium because so in my therapy work, I learned that like it helps with sleep and restless bodies, and the American diet doesn't typically have a lot of magnesium in it.
And grapeseed.
But they said that it doesn't work well with one of the other medications that I'm on. I can't remember which one, but the magnesium ends up.
But you have a high BNP. That's weird because you have a high BNP. So when they say, you have a high BNP, you want to like up your magnesium as well as Your grape seed extracts, your ginger root. Those are the things that they want you to nourish to lower your BNP, is what I was
Okay.
told.
Okay. My doctor did not give me that information. I'm working with Dr. Eliana Manami at UW. And all she had said was do a little exercise every week, but not to the point that I get winded. So I walk on the treadmill or I do the elliptical a few times a week, and then follow the low sodium heart healthy diet. And so that's what I've tried to do. And then I've been on a liquid restriction. So I'm not supposed to have, I got an increase recently, so I'm not supposed to have more than 80 ounces of fluid a day. It was 64 ounces for the longest time, which is like really hard being on that fluid restriction. I don't know if you experienced that, but oh man, I like being hydrated, and
Yeah, I love being hydrated.
That was way harder than the low sodium diet.
I also love working out. I've been a dancer, yoga, Pilates, that's just who I've been since I was like 4. So I am starting it's kind of like a stretching. I noticed that, our heart muscle is, our heart muscles are neglected, with a certain stretch, and, there's certain ways that you can, breathe through that stretch. So I'm going to pick a day where I'm going to try once a week, which is 4 classes a month. I might up it to 2 classes for an hour long. And it would, it would just basically be, like $10 a month for 4 classes. And if I up it, it'd be this, just the $10 a month. So it's just basically women are wanting to get their EF percent up. I have all these tools and skills that I apply. I went from a 10%, now I'm 65. I've been steady on 65 EF percent now for 3 years. So
awesome. Congratulations.
Yes, I worked with that in the pool, low impact in the back, legs with the foam weights. And I was doing water aerobics. And that really helped me when I had the defibrillator. But what has helped me is all the techniques that I've learned my whole life as a dancer. And I came up with a routine and I do it. And so I hear it all the time, like where women are like, I want to, do you know what to do? And, I struggled, terribly, obviously. And I knew I wasn't going to go right back into the classes that I always did with the girls that I've been dancing with for over 10 years. But I knew I created my own little breathing stretch routine, and it has helped my veins tremendously. And I'm very, very bad. Like this side is like, well, I don't know if you can see because of the lighting, but I had a blood clot from the cardiac arrest. They said it was the longest blood clot from here to my neck.
Oh my gosh.
It was like the whole vein. So my body is literally taking exits to function. So working out for me and having this, breathing routine, an hour out of like the day once a week, I think is very important, just to kind of like get the week started. I might do it on like a Monday and start in April. So the first week of April, the first Monday of April is when I think I'm going to start. So if you want to know about that, I'll send it to you. And it's I just think that so many people don't know how important it is to stretch the heart muscles, drink a glass of water before you go to bed at night, keep that heart muscle moist. Heart moist equals stroke prevention in the morning. They say that the strokes usually happen between the time that you wake up and noon. That's why when you go to bed, you want to drink a glass of water at night. And when you wake up, you want to drink hot lemon water, you know,
That's what I'm drinking right now.
Mm-hmm. So it's really it really does open up the you know, your heart valves, and waking them up, as well as good for the stomach. It all kind of it's all connected. They say have hot lemon water before you even brush your teeth. It should be the very first thing that enters your body, because it's a detox. It's a detox remedy. But my mom always said, if you brush your teeth, forget it. You're done. No, you have to do it before you brush your teeth. It's the first thing that goes into your body is that hot lemon water. So there are ways that we can little bit holistically detox our body. Again, we are our own advocates. The medication, yes, we need them. I need my medication. I depend on my medication. My medication helps me. I am pro medication that's not addictive, like Zoloft and Trazodone for night terrors and things like that. But I do believe in the natural healing of energy. I believe that when our mind is more focused and healthier, it can heal the heart. The mind can also make the heart sick if it's not well. I believe in the balance between the brain and the heart. And I do believe that there should be a disciplined, like, how much does one love themselves, to give themselves an hour of stretched breathing that can really get the blood flowing through the veins, get the heart pumping. So there's that circulation that I think that was, gonna forever be our fight. Like, you're at 38% EF percent. Let's see if we can get that up to 48, or 42.
Yeah.
And I again, it is about being consistent with our health.
Yeah. And for me, like, sleep has been hugely important, because I, and it's like also been the biggest struggle, those first few months, just terrified of falling asleep. Like, am I going to wake up?
Sure.
And then, my doctor telling me, like, that's one of the most important things you can do for yourself is get good, consistent sleep to help your body heal.
That's why I rely on my Trazodone. If it wasn't for Trazodone, and I've tried going to sleep without my Trazodone, and I'm still affected even after 5 years.
Yeah.
I hold my breath while I sleep, and then I wake up and it's like my heart is pumping out of my chest, and I'm having subconscious anxiety through my subconscious sleep. Yeah. I don't realize it, but I'm afraid I'm going to suffocate to death by holding my breath and not waking up on time. So I started to take Trazodone, and I'm on a high dosage. I don't know. Some people are like, how can you be on that much? But I'm on 100 milligrams, and I take it every night before bed, and I'm asleep by, 8:30, with my son. I read him stories. I'm in bed, and I get up at, 6:30 a.m. and I'm good to go.
That's awesome.
The rested sleep because of the Trazodone. If I'm not taking my Trazodone, I'm not sleeping at all. It's just not happening. The brain cannot shut off. Again, the brain is so important with the heart, because if you can't shut off the brain, then anxiety happens, and worry and thinking, and, all of that nonsense that really should not even have been an experience. It was just sad that we, suffered through this disease. But I think if we keep talking about it, we are developing this pregnancy movement. It's not there yet, but we're developing it, one interview at a time. One woman can make a difference with this. If every woman steps up, before you know it, I have already 200 women that are interviewed. I can't even believe it. I'm on, I think your number, like I think you're 210 or 211.
Awesome.
I have to like look, but I'm already past 200, which means that, and I'm like booked. I had to stop it for April because I want to change my schedule, and I want to change. I want to incorporate you know, the recovery routine to get that EF percent up, and like clock it. We should, all after, before the class, how we feel before and how do we feel after. We know how our bodies feel. If we feel, wow, that just felt so good, and then that's your body telling you that's a good thing, do more of that. But there has to be some sort of consistency routine, or one day we'll go into the next, and before you know it, you're kind of putting in a walk here or walk there, and you're not really getting your full, home treatment. We can only get so much from the doctors and so much from the medicine, that then we have to start relying on our self-discipline. And
I know my husband jokes all the time, like he would be, if he had to go through this, like he'd be the worst patient. Like he's terrible at remembering his medications and being consistent with like a schedule or plan. And so he jokes all the time that, that I'm a good patient. So, because I don't miss a dose, like I'm terrified of missing a dose. So,
right. And that's something like, that's what we now, not missing a dose of what something is good, like what your body really craves, what your body, the blood pumping through your veins really craves. It doesn't want to be pushed hard. It just needs that flow.
Yeah.
That's why they call it like the Vanasa flow, because it really is. There's certain movements that can get your energy in your body that can actually heal. And those are the types of consistencies that I think should be applied at least an hour a week, or if you can't do it every day. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or for me, I have to do it at least even 20 minutes, even if it's like just fitting it in through the day between an interview. It has to happen. It's more, it's not a matter of need. It's not a matter of want. It's a matter of need, or I'm not feeling well.
Yeah.
I'm tired. So you want to break that tired, when you wake up, do you still feel tired?
Well, I mean, I have 2 small kids at home, but yeah. Yeah, I mean,
well, mommy's a different tired mommy. There's
yes,
tired,
yes.
and then there's mommy tired. I know mommy tired, but there's the tired that I'm talking about.
Yes, it's different. It's been, yeah, I mean, it's been really challenging. Like, knowing that I'm only really operating at like a 70% capacity compared to what I used to be able to do. I was always someone who had always a full schedule and busy. And, yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment. I still feel tired. Like if I can nap at least once and ever, I will jump on that opportunity. Cause it's physically exhausting existing most days. So, yeah. And that's been really hard as someone who likes to go and be really busy, not being able to keep up with that same schedule. And so, learning
I struggled with that.
Then yeah, it's hard.
Oh, I for 18 years, I worked on like every top TV show in Hollywood. Active career, location manager, local 399. I was an assistant, and I would be up at sometimes 2-3 in the morning, and I get home at like 8, sometimes 6 p.m. at night. We're the first ones there, we're the last ones to leave. But I love what I do. I love my job. I do. I enjoy it. I now have a company. Here are locations, but so I don't go on set as much. And my managers that I've been working with consistently, same managers, producers, we shuffle on different TV shows, and we've been working together for over 15 to 18 years. And I told them, I have to focus on, getting this awareness out. And I just kind of took up my own hiatus on these TV shows because I just can't go on anymore on the shows and like not be able to talk about PPCM, but I can't talk about PPCM because it's not professional. So I was like, well, then I got to take a break because it's all I talk about. It's all I think about. It's all I can consume. So it did change me. And what I could do back then, and I would be sometimes working around the clock. Like I worked on the TV show Bones for like over 6 years, and I only did night shoots. I was the night shoot. So then in the morning I would have another show, and I kind of like sleep in between because I didn't really need sleep. Why? Because I was like working, making money, and I'm like enjoying what I do, and like, sleeping's for the dead. I just always had this workaholic mentality, always, my whole life. Like my father was the New York Stock Exchange, Philadelphia Stock Exchange. I was running a PR marketing department for Habitat Humanity and American Cancer Society, like at age 16. So like I've always been very, very active. That was really hard for me. That was so hard for me to like wake up from cardiac death after PPCM and not being able to, work the way I wanted to work, give my full, and its reputation too. You're always looked at the last show that you were on. If you, are not your best and you're not good, you might not get hired again.
Yeah.
So I would always like, if I wasn't my best, then I'd not do it at all. And it was really frustrating for me, because I could not go back to work at all. Now I had a baby and a defibrillator and one that was actually killing me. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I hear you with all of the adjustments, and even with your husband, I'm sure that really impacted him watching you suffer like that.
Mm-hmm.
How is
Absolutely.
how did he cope with it? Because my husband is he's still coping.
Thankfully, he is a really engaged parent. He works, but when he's home, he's super present. Especially in the beginning, it was like he would tell me to go lay down and nap and try to rest. And he would put more on his plate because I couldn't. And so I'm super thankful for him and just standing with me through all of that. Because we actually weren't married when I got diagnosed. We just got married this past September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so he proposed to me like 3 weeks after I got out of the hospital. And then we were just waiting until all my heart stuff was less complicated before we were going to plan a wedding, because we didn't want to put me through all that stress. And then I got my defibrillator surgery in September, like early September. And then I was going in for a right heart cath in early October. And he's like, let's just do it. So we decided on a Thursday, and we got married the next Wednesday at one of my aunt and uncle's houses, and just kept it like super small. Like a lot of our friends don't even know that we're married because we just haven't, with COVID, we just don't. We've been pretty isolated because, if you get COVID with heart stuff, like you just get really sick, and then with the baby. So anyways, so yeah.
So you have a defibrillator right now currently?
I do. Yeah. I got a nice big one on my side. So,
how are your veins?
Fine. I haven't had any complications with it. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So do you feel it?
Yeah. Well, when someone hugs me, I can feel them like pushing on it, which is weird. And then we have this little box in the living room, and I have to press that once a week, and it uploads my data. And I get reports on like how its battery life is and all that stuff.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. But I haven't had any complications with it so far, thankfully.
I had such a love-hate relationship with it. They all said I needed it and that I had to have it. But I knew it was killing me at the same time. Turns out I was allergic to 11 components out of the device of
oh
the
my gosh,
titanium, Like when I was younger, like I couldn't wear certain jewelry, or couldn't get a belly button ring. I wanted to be that girl to have a belly button ring so bad. I tried it like 3 times, but my body kept pushing it, rejecting it, and I kept getting infected. So if you have any type of allergies to jewelry or anything, do not put it inside your heart.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
So
yeah, that was super. That was I am thankful for it. Because it just makes me feel safe to go to sleep. So that fear is a little lower.
Yes.
But yeah, it's still
I'm a little fearful.
Weird.
I don't have a vest. I don't have a defibrillator. They all said I needed it, and that it scared me. But I got it out, removed, and now I feel a lot better, although I'm still damaged from the scar tissue damage and the contrast of the MRI, the heart MRI is the same. The liquid contrast has the same particle components as the defibrillator. So you can't, if you're allergic again, you can't have that, because that even really took me down harder.
Yeah.
So I've been through it. But as of today, what are your hopes for, moving forward with this disease, and now with what you know, and with your daily routine, what are your hopes for now having this diagnosis?
Well, I mean, honestly, one of my biggest concerns is like, once my daughter's old enough, is this going to happen to her? So if there's more awareness and education about it now, then if and when she decides to have kids in the future, then she would be safer. So, I mean, being able to be on this podcast and share my story, and if one more voice helps with raising awareness about all of this, yeah,
and like I think this is what it's for. It's for our children. It's for our grandchildren. It's for changing history. It's creating and developing this pregnancy movement, so then this way, if they're not going to raise and make the NT-proBNP test standard or mandatory, then we need to raise our voices and raise the awareness. So that's why I'm grateful to talk to you today. And I know that I share my stories sometimes through all my the interviews, because the people that I interview don't know me. They don't know what I've been through and why I started this. And if somebody hears it the first time and they don't want to hear it the second interview, then just fast forward me. But to getting to know me and to get to know you throughout this woman's time of 2022, and we are the women that are speaking up. We're the women that are making change. So, you and I together, this is not, it just doesn't stop here with this interview. It continues on what we can do, like me providing you materials, the PowerPoint presentation that they can include in their training for your midwives. If there's any, questions or, that they might have, they can ask you, and you can, we can, ask me, and, go how, if we have more updated studies that maybe they need to have in the next year or two, which there will be, God willing, because now that we know this, or the study, start doing more, study and have more, have more, addressing concerns within the study to solve more problems, because it's not just about the mommy, it's about the baby and the placenta and the growth, and it's about our children, and it's about our children, it's about the whole, how we all evolve through this.
Well, and I mean, and within my own, so I have a small private practice that I do as well as a psychologist. And so when I was in my disability time, I participated in some trainings on additional like postpartum conditions. And so that's kind of been in rebranding who I am as a clinician and wanting to help support women's health and postpartum concerns and challenges and things like that. And so, going through this experience for me has definitely brought more light and awareness of what all is out there. And I want to be there to help women navigate through all of this. So I think that's definitely one of my hopes too, is that I can help women in navigating those postpartum challenges. And if anyone has, this experience as well, and this diagnosis, like having that shared lived experience, I think can make me a more empathetic and a better clinician.
I think so too. I think that when you start hearing patterns of words and patterns of fear and patterns of what people are trying to accomplish for their families, and they feel like they're just paralyzed throughout this, there's not much advocacy. And, I believe it's the warriors that are fighting for change and believing in, women's rights through the wellness of providing the NT-proBNP test, that there is a certain type of, like they say that when, you've been shattered into like a million pieces, you're that person that's been shattered is the one that can pick up one piece and give it to somebody else, because nobody understands what you go through as a woman, not being listened to, having almost cardiac death, having suffocation feelings when nobody's like really taking these symptoms seriously. And then you're supposed to go on normal and have a normal life and go back to the way you were. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yep.
And so I think that the one to pick up the pieces are the ones that are shattered. Yeah. Because the ones that are shattered knows what pieces to pick up. They know how to meet a person at their level, of where they are at in coping or grieving or having just these feelings of feeling alone, that loneliness feeling that every woman has felt during this pregnancy of peripartum cardiomyopathy, terrified, worried, and, questions of the $1 million question, am I going to live?
Yeah.
And so, and to live with that, of having that fear.
Yeah. I mean, when up until my December echo, like we were definitely having active conversations if I need to get on the heart transplant list, because my echoes just weren't improving throughout the year. And that's terrifying. I'm like up late at night researching statistics about survival rates after heart transplants, and like, do I need to, write letters to my kids for certain milestones in the future because I won't be here.
I have,
and it's like,
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I exactly what you said. Those are the patterns that all women, I thought I was the only one that did that. I have one for if I don't graduate, if I'm not there for him to graduate high school, if I'm not, I have that kind of covered a little bit.
Yeah.
I like to update it a little bit now that I'm not like dying, and it's not like the sky is falling and I'm on doomsday. Right. But, yeah, you're not alone in that, because I have it, and other women that I talk to also, and here at that moment, we think, am I the only one that's doing this? No. If you're not doing that, then you're not normal. That's our norm.
Yeah.
There's a different norm for each. And for a PPCM norm is way different thinking, perception, our motivation of being there for our children if we can't, we think about these things, whereas like the women that I see, at, my son's school, like some women, they're like, I don't know, talking about how they bought the wrong size at a boutique. Such a problem. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what yeah. So, there is definitely need more advocacy surrounding this one's survival, as well as for the families. If the woman doesn't survive, it's kind of like, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking because it's all preventable.
Yeah.
As early as 10 weeks pregnant with the NT-proBNP test. So any last final words that you would like to end this interview with that could possibly maybe help somebody else?
I mean, just knowing that, I mean, it's really comforting when I found that Facebook support group, and knowing that I wasn't alone in this. Like, that was huge for me, and reading other women's stories, and celebrating successes, when EFs go up, or they're able to go on a roller coaster because they got a defibrillator, or whatever it is. That I think being in community with other women going through this that definitely helped me feel sane. Like, even if I wasn't sharing a ton, being able to see others on the other side of it, like even hearing from you, like, you're 5 years out, like, that's huge. It's like, okay, like maybe I will get to be around for my daughter's 5th birthday. Like that, it's, yeah. So I think just not being alone and being in community about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that you just said it just now, like with me 5 years out, that's how I feel when I'm talking to the woman. It was like a few days ago, she's 12 years out.
Oh.
And she did try. She worked at the American Heart Association for years trying to get them on board. This was 12 years ago. And she tried and worked for them and tried. And then after a few years, she just realized that, what she wanted to be part of and why she wanted to be part of that, it wasn't getting accomplished. So it was for her, it was like more frustrating than anything. But she's 12 years out.
Yeah.
So for me, that's inspiring. And, I'm told by even, from Dr. Fett that we could live a very, very long life because we were healthy prior to pregnancy. This was a pregnancy-induced complication that was left untreated. Once we're treated and once we recover, we're fine. But you got to get to that recovery. You got to get your EF percent up, and you can't just do it relying on, just the medication. You have to do it within, and I'm going to start that. I'm going to start I'll send you the link to the fitness, and you can show up or not show up. It will be, like I'll start it on every Monday, to get the week started. And then, if all the ladies that are, want more during the week, we could try 2 times a week, but let's start with like 1 time a week for 1 hour. And I think that it would, our hearts will be saying thank you. So, we'll try it, and I'll let you know, and we'll give it a whirl, and I'll send you all the materials that you can send to your midwives. And
thank you.
And we'll do wonderful, great things together,
Yeah. Well, and if there's anything I can do professionally to assist, I'd be happy to help however I can. So,
well, I think I know there can. I know I already have a whole idea, and that's why I designed this, because I think that, we have 50 states in the United States of America, and how many hospitals have labor and deliveries? It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be trained and educated, and they're not. So we can. We'll just we have the pamphlets, we have the information that they need, and we'll just keep providing it to them where it maybe makes sense visually, and hopefully they just all maybe some will be interested to being informed. Some might feel education is fearful. Some might feel like, oh, wow, this could save a life. I've never heard of it, but I'm interested and willing. And some might just say, not interested.
Yeah.
But I feel that they can make their decision once they're educated. But to be educated and not apply it is just careless. But again, that's their choice.
Right.
But it's our job, I feel, our life job. I mean, like our purpose life job, why we lived, is to educate and spread the awareness and answer the questions that maybe, even though we are survivors, our wounds have wisdom. We are smarter than the medical community because we're the ones that lived it.
Yeah.
We're the ones that suffered. We know the pain. You can't walk into like, an addiction AA room and say, that you can describe if you've never had a drink in your life and lead a room full of recovered, addicts, which I understand. I was an advocate for that, but I was not an addict myself.
Yeah.
But I realized I want to help, but wrong field. Now I can walk into a room of women who have suffered and died of maternal mortality and be the lead because I understand that. So it's like, you can't take
that lived experience.
Yeah. I mean, even though you're an ER person and you're a medical professional and you've had years and years of experience, you still don't know because you've never experienced it.
No.
So there's a different type of understanding of when a woman says that she cannot breathe.
Yeah.
And that it just might not be anxiety.
Yeah.
And then
that's what's so hard too, especially, coming out of the pandemic and still being in it, like so many more people have gone to the ER because of anxiety. And so then that's the diagnosis of first default.
But that's the conflict between COVID and that's what I'm noticing. What's hard about COVID right now, like PPCM, we didn't have a chance before being listened to because we were women with anxiety, but now COVID has kind of been a little blocker for us.
Right. Well, because so many of the symptoms are similar. I know, it was so frustrating every time I check in for an appointment and they'd run through the list. I'm like, well, yeah, I do have that, but that's because I'm in heart failure.
It's not COVID. I know. Same here. Like, do you have shortness of breath? Yes, but I had cardiac arrest after getting, it's almost like we do have the same symptoms as COVID, but ours is the norm because we suffered without treatment and diagnosis. So it's like that's what I was trying to, notice, that if there's the change is that it is way more difficult. Even though it was difficult before, it's not even that much more difficult.
Yeah.
So I think we need to start with labor and delivery, and and that's where I think women are getting sent home like you did. You guys sent home from the ER. No, labor and delivery.
Yeah. No, ER. I never went to a labor and delivery. I was at a birth center.
You were at a birth center at the ER?
No, I don't like IVs in my hands. And so when I was pregnant with my daughter, I went with the midwife route. So I went to a birth center and worked with midwives, and was never in a hospital, for any part of my pregnancy. And then it was the 10 weeks postpartum. Then my symptoms were so severe. That's when I went to my first ER visit and then got sent away.
Okay. All right. So you got sent away from the ER. I thought you got sent away from the labor and delivery. Okay, yeah. No, because you were 10 weeks post.
Yes, I was post.
So, yeah, and start with the ERs, in your state. You can start with your state. The obstetrician's offices, and yeah, you can say on behalf of a representative of PPCM Fund, we would like to raise the awareness. And these are what should be the protocol, standard testings for all pregnancies. Because again, as we know, is that, when you're pregnant for the first time, you don't even know what feelings are bad and what feelings aren't.
You don't even know what you don't know. Yeah.
That's why the tests have to be mandatory, because they're the only ones that can determine exactly that we're not crazy. We're not having anxiety. We're actually currently having heart failure. And it is so common for, again, the pattern of voices and the pattern of words of women is that when they're pregnant, they're sent home for anxiety when they're having heart failure. Then once they're diagnosed with peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM, after they give birth, then they're having anxiety, but women are thinking they're having heart failure.
Yeah.
So there's a very mixed, see my voice? It happens always if I have too many conversations. It happens where it's interesting because women are confused now what really is anxiety and what really is heart failure. Right. Because when we were having heart failure, we were told we had anxiety. And now that we have anxiety, we think that we're having heart failure. So again, a big mental, mind, trip on our so-called what's supposed to be normal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's if it's educated from the beginning, then women will have less questions, I think, and also knowing that we're not alone in the world,
right,
with this, which you're not, because I'm right there, which is why you and I and women, all the women that are slowly stepping up and talking about this more, it's a demand.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For talking with me. And I really do appreciate your time. We did go over, but that's okay. If people don't watch it, whatever, if they do, again, we're here to just, talk about the painful truth, and it's not pretty. So there is rambling. But thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
You. And check your your message when I send you the calendar for the breathing, and just try it. You might love it. It might really just kind of put it on your week on a good path.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
All right.
Talk to you soon. Care. Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the PPCM Fund podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. PPCM's Painful Truth is made possible through the generous support of donors like you. Help us spread the awareness by donating at ppcmfund.com or click the link below to become a member through Ko-fi. Have a great day.